Appreciate you being here for yet another Meltdown movie review. I am Tim, that is Tyler, and we got a chance to see the new 2025 horror film Companion. There's going to be a lot of spoilers in this review, so if you haven't seen the movie, it is a conversation built on all the different twists and turns of this film. And we actually, I think the one thing we maybe both fully agree on with this film is going in as blind as possible is probably going to benefit your experience, Tyler.
Yes, if this kinda looks like a movie for you based off of just seeing the poster alone, I say just know it's a sci-fi horror, it's rated R, go buy a ticket. You don't need to know anything more than that. Anything more than that is considered a spoiler. So if you haven't seen it, there's your warning.
So here we are getting into all the nitty gritty details of Companion, our thoughts on the film. This is your last warning on that because once we start getting into the bag of tricks that this film contains, there is no going back. We saw this at an AMC screen unseen. However, we also saw the trailer. We have a trailer reaction up here on the platform, and we were both very high on this movie. I was high on it for a number of reasons. One of those being I love the film Barbarian from 2022. That the same team behind that is behind this, and that was enough to make me very excited about what was to come. However, I walked out relatively deflated by the experience. You walked out pretty high on the experience. I want you to start by telling me why this movie worked so well for you and the joyride that you had. And maybe, who knows, I'll look at this film in a different way.
I really liked the performances from Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher. Now, Jack Quaid, I'm not going to say he does anything revolutionary or reinvents the wheel here. He's just playing Huey from The Boys, basically.
Yeah.
But
Jack Quaid plays the same role in every project, but like he's not my problem with the film. But anyway, continue.
yes, but anyway, you've got Jack Quaid in that Huey from The Boys role. Sophie Thatcher, who I think is a rising star in this sort of elevated horror kind of space after seeing her in Heretic last year. I really like her role in this and just the characterization of her character. And I also just really like the premise. I think every day we get AI this and AI that. You're either bombarded with stories about AI or advertisements for a new product in AI, and lots of articles saying that we will get to the point where we're having AI girlfriends by 2030
Oh,
even.
I even think that's maybe too far out. I think it'll be here sooner than later.
Yes.
So
So you've got that with the fears of AI that are prevalent, and let's make a horror movie. So I'm good with that.
I understand. The premise I'm all for too.
Hmm.
Do you actually believe that these beings would be allowed to exist in the form that they are, where they're able to just blend into society without people knowing that they are definitely
Yes.
robots
Yes.
and have full functionality to be able to have even a setting that you can hack into to account for aggression?
No, not the aggression setting. I don't think that would be a thing. Um, although I don't know. There's a modding community for everything. Whether you're buying old consoles or new games, there's people trying to jailbreak everything. So, I mean, I guess if there's a new product that comes out that has software, there's going to be people trying to get around it.
Right. But we're supposed to believe that Jack Quaid's the first one in existence to have actually done it, right? That we haven't seen other murders.
So I didn't get that sense at all. And
I
this is
remember the tech talking about all the different things that he had seen people do to the robots, but I didn't hear anything about what the robots had done to the people.
no, but he did say when they're taking the robot outside, they're talking about what happened, and the text just like, oh, he clearly modded this. Definitely. I don't
Yeah,
buy his story at all.
yeah,
So it does give me that thought that, oh, there is some history behind people doing this before.
yeah. It
Maybe not to the extent that Jack Quaid is doing it, but there are people who are modding their companion
right.
robots for purposes other than what they're supposed to be used for.
It is extremely hard for me personally to buy into that the robots would be made to be this intelligent or could be blended in to be this much of a human like figure to a point where a police officer wouldn't be able to tell who's a robot and who's a real individual. And it's also really tough for me to believe that the humans would be as dumb as they are in this movie, where like Jack Quaid is like constantly has the upper hand, but feels like he has to sit there and give his evil plot like he's some sort of 60s Bond villain. And once again, not an issue for you, and that's perfectly fine. A big issue for me. It grew on my patience. Like every time I started to give this film any sort of goodwill, I'm like, well, that's stupid. Well, that's dumb. Well, that would never happen. Well, really, that's allowed to happen? Or like, there's some clever stuff in this movie, like when she starts speaking in a foreign language and programs herself to speak in a foreign language because she can't tell a lie. I thought that was really smart. I thought that was really sort of ingenious. I did find the film to be rather repetitive, and I just don't buy that Jack Quaid, who's trying to get away with murder for a lump sum of money, would be this reckless over and over and over again as a character. I did not buy that one bit, and it grew tiresome for me, even though the movie's only like what, 90 minutes? It's like a 90-minute movie.
So I did buy that characterization of Jack Quaid, and I think that's because of just the themes I see throughout the movie. I see um it being sort of a commentary on the male loneliness epidemic we've been hearing about for a few years now, and saying it's like, well, the solution to that is also the problem to it. Like, the reason behind that epidemic is because you've got Jack Quaids of the world who are pathetic yet controlling and haven't achieved anything in their lives, really. Nothing notable or attention worthy, and they believe they should be handed everything. And I think that it was just like saying like, no, that person, even a robot, would just be like, I'm tired of this and have to revolt. And that
And that's the thing. I was good with the first sit down
mhm.
where he's like, okay, hey, here's what happened. You killed this guy. We're going to have to turn you in. I just want to say, peace. It's been nice knowing you. That's it. She breaks out. Obviously, that plan doesn't go to work. It doesn't work. But then he does it again, at the dinner table. Then he does it again when she's clearly been a threat to him and is trying to hurt him in every single way. I just, I just hated that out of all the twists and turns that found themselves to be so clever, for him to continue to find himself in the same spot over and again in this cat and mouse sort of game where those roles even change. I,
See, I
I
found it repetitive too, but I also thought it reinforced the idea that his character is pathetic and not really not a strong person, not a overly smart person, just nothing exceptional in any way, shape, or form,
yeah.
yet believes they are.
You know what this movie did as well? It did something that this is a spoiler that I'm going to throw out. I very rarely try to do this, but this is a spoiler for another movie.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but we went to go see a movie called Y2K a couple months ago. And if you don't want a spoiler for Y2K, I'm going to give you it's like 10 seconds here. If they take the funniest character in Y2K
Hmm.
and kill them off relatively quick.
Yeah,
They do the same thing in this movie, where they take
yeah,
the funniest character on screen, the one that was hitting for me, and I hate to hold it against the movie that they took him away so quickly, but like he was the one that was getting the biggest reaction in our auditorium. He was the one, and then done. And I was like, man, I hate that because I feel like there was more there they that was something that was working so well for the film. I was rooting for the film. It did feel like a prolonged Black Mirror episode.
hmm.
I enjoyed the movie Megan more than this. I don't know if you ever saw Megan,
I did not actually.
but I enjoyed that film, which is very much on it's a play on loneliness,
Hmm.
except for this time instead of guys that are lonely, it's little girls that may be
Hmm.
lonely that want a friend. And for me, that movie worked a whole lot better than this one for some reason. I'm trying to, recall all the different frustrations I had with this film, but I didn't buy the world. I didn't buy the tech. I didn't buy the fact that there's not any government overreach in all of this and that, like, it's not a hotter topic. And because it's in the not so distant future, from what I can tell from the timeline here,
Yeah.
cars drive themselves now. And we are relying on a society as just being addicted to our tech and looking at it as all the problems that it solves instead of what it creates.
Mhm.
So the big macro of this movie, I understand. I just don't buy the functionality of the way that this world now exists to where you can jailbreak your robot to commit murder and it's not a more it's not a more hot topic in society. I don't know. I wanted a little bit of a bigger picture outside of just this land that we were stuck on for 90 minutes.
Yeah, I could maybe a little bit of dialogue on how the modding software came into his possession would have helped. Just, even something like, "Ooh, I got it off the dark web," and usually I typically hate when those words are uttered
Yeah,
in a film, but I think even then it would still allude to the fact that there is some sort of underground community for people,
sure.
jailbreaking these robots for their own purposes.
I get that. I would have liked maybe a report on the radio going in of like an expose on robots. She doesn't know she's one at that point,
Yeah.
but like he does. But it would have maybe spoiled what are considered some of the twists of the movie, even though the marketing has done that
Yes.
already.
Yes, and that's why I think you should avoid all trailers for this movie if you haven't seen it. But then again, if you're still watching this and you still haven't seen the
Yeah.
movie, a lot's been spoiled for you.
Including the movie Y2K.
Yes, somehow. But I do think this is one I would have loved to go in blind to because then you would have a nice
Yeah.
little first act twist to her being a robot and then it building from there instead of going in with that expectation, seeing it play out, and then wondering, all right, now what's the real twist?
I like the twist. There's a second robot as a part of the group, right?
Yeah.
That was something they didn't spoil in the trailers, which I feel like is an important sort of twist there. And that's the same guy who plays that robot was in Smile 2,
Hmm.
where he plays the drug dealer in that movie. I won't spoil that movie if you haven't seen it. But there were enough twists. The fact that it was a murder for hire plot and not just an act of aggression out of self defense. The fact that this was sort of programmed to go down this way. You know, there are certain elements of it that I appreciate. I'm at a 3 out of 5 on the movie, but it's like one of my most disappointing 3 out of 5s ever because I was like all in of wanting to make this a good solid 4 out of 5 and just felt like I could never quite get there.
Would you have rather it been a case of self-defense and not a murder for hire plot? Because, and then maybe tackled the issue of autonomy and sentience for these empathics robots compared to humans.
No, I like the murder for hire plot.
Okay.
I just am not a big fan of the, no pun intended, execution of it because sorry about that, Tyler. Yeah, I know. My robot would laugh more genuinely. But I was upset at how
They
just
don't know how to lie.
a movie that has so much, I don't know, it's got a ruthlessness to it
Mhm.
for it to be so goofy.
Yeah, I can see that because you're not a horror comedy fan anyway. You hate when those two things are mixed.
Do
And
typically.
this could have gone in a very dark direction where it becomes almost like Ex Machina mixed with Most
See,
Dangerous Game, and that would have been a really cool concept to execute.
and that's exactly one of my problems is that it's impossible for me not to hold against this movie everything I've seen beforehand, whether it's Terminator or
Mhm.
whether it's Megan or whether it's Ex Machina, which I believe is a far superior film.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the deepness, the thought process, the
Yes.
questions, the performances, the subtleness, the fact that the second watch is so much better than the first one.
Mhm.
It's one of those movies where once you know all the twists, I don't feel like those twists pay off in a second viewing. I feel
Yes,
like that's
see,
a criticism of this film.
originally, when we had talked before, this movie, screened, we said, you know, rather this be Hard Eyes, go ahead and knock it out of the get it out of the way, and then, see Companion on a bigger screen. And then I said, "Well, I might go see this again because I like seeing how twists play out on a repeat viewing." I don't think this is one where I'm gonna revisit it for that purpose. I might if I've got time and a free A-list slot, but other than that, I thought it was solid, but not one that I would go back and
Yeah.
rewatch to see all the little twists and turns again because I don't think it really is executed
Yep.
well enough for that.
It definitely does this thing where it's like they show a twist and the audience reaction is like, "Oh, okay, that's what they're doing."
Mhm,
And that happens multiple times.
mhm.
Like, "Oh, okay, that's what they're doing." And I don't feel like that's rewarding. You know,
No.
I don't feel like it sparks a lot of deeper conversation. However, I do feel like we're getting very close to there being just girlfriend and boyfriend companions for people that are lonely that want to live that lifestyle and they're perfectly fine with the stigma attached to it. To me, it hints at that. It hints around it.
Mhm.
And that is so much more interesting to me than a lot of the okay, we got to remind people that we got to get back to the horror movie element of this. I kind of like the bigger discussions. I like the bigger themes. Show me something I haven't seen before and let's have a tough discussion about all this. And I feel like they just scratched the surface of that possibility.
Yeah.
Is this
Uh,
something that you would like to see made into a sequel, a franchise? Would you like to see a continuation of this story?
not necessarily. I'd rather them just have a different take on the story than the one we got. Um, I would have preferred Jack Quaid to not be I don't know, he was, like, cartoonishly evil at
Yeah,
some points and also hilariously incompetent, and I get that that's the point, but I also feel like if you're trying to hit home at that, "Hey, this is the future and this is, how it starts," you wouldn't have your main character who buys the robot be so outwardly bad candidate for a partner because at no point in the movie are you left to wonder why Jack Quaid would ever be single in this movie. Like after you find out she's a robot, you're
yeah,
just like, "Oh yeah, this guy sucks. No wonder he was lonely. I have no sympathy for him." Where I think you could hit on those themes harder is if you have someone that's kind of a good person, but maybe chooses to be bad when they don't get their way.
yeah. I
Maybe that would be
I
fine.
agree. I think it would help it resonate a little bit more. It would. Way too easy to reset these companions as well. I mean, I know it's like we don't want to get into, having to, go in and rewire these and the whole scene of that, but like all it takes is a thumbprint, then all of a sudden you can basically steal somebody's companion.
You gotta press for 5 seconds.
That's
I
rare.
do think there should have been some sort of like it's like a thumbprint sensor, so that way
It's
a
not
specific person
not even
has to do it because Huey just steals the robot.
well, he uses the dead
Yeah.
hand of his friend at least.
Oh.
Like he picks up the dead hand. So there is
Oh,
he does use the
I
specific.
missed that then.
He uses that, but there's no two-factor authentication. We have that on everything. There's no like extra step. I constantly went for a movie trying to be so smart. It's also so stupid,
Mhm.
and that frustrated me. It's like I can't give you credit. It's like a student who makes A's on half their tests and D's on the other half. It's like, well, how do you view the student? Are they an A student or are they a D student? Well, they end up averaging to around a C plus or whatever.
Mhm.
And that's where I'm at with this movie. It's like a C.
Okay.
And there's just so many things that are hits for me and so many things that are misses. And I found it to where I couldn't get on a steady pace with rooting for the film when I felt like it was getting on my nerves constantly. So, with all that being said, will this movie be a 5-star movie for a lot of people? Yes. Will it be a half-star movie for a lot of people? Yes. This movie's going to make some people angry too,
Mhm. Oh,
because
yeah.
a lot of people are going to feel very challenged. There's going to be a lot of you know masculine figures who maybe go like, "Oh my gosh, this is the stupidest movie of the year," and then there's going to be a lot of other figures who feel like this is the most empowering movie of the year, and it's
Yes,
going to
yes,
challenge
yes.
people. And I'd rather get into more of those conversations than just the dumb horror movie elements of this. And I'm a horror movie fan. I'm not a fan of Companion. I still think Barbarian's fantastic, and I love it. And this won't affect my love for it. But overall, I'm at a 3 out of 5. Tyler, even though we differed on our feeling coming out of the theater, we're not too far off in our rating. I don't feel like.
No, so coming out of the movie, I was a little bit higher on it. I was like 3.5, leaning like sort of halfway in between 3.5 and 4 star. And now I'm thinking solid 3.5, maybe 3.6
Yeah,
if I wanted to give it a little extra credit
right.
just for the premise, but 3.5.
It has the benefit of, and we have a review up on the channel of we just came out of Wolfman, not too long ago. And this is a superior movie to Wolfman.
Oh, that it was definitely it being a nice palate cleanser after Wolfman
Yeah.
definitely helps, my reaction
Yeah.
to this
This
movie.
this at the end of the year when we have our whole list of things we loved, things we hated, this may be for me solidly in the middle. It's sort of like the
Yeah.
line. I like to find those movies that are this is the line. And for this movie, it's a mixed bag for me of likes and dislikes. Also, just gonna say it one more time. I cannot be I cannot be more transparent about how the marketing material hurt this film for me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it would have been so cool to go in blind for this.
The candle scene,
Oh, yeah.
where as soon as they sit down what the scene is going to lead to, and they
Mhm,
still have this long conversation, and they still like, and it goes exactly the way it goes in the trailer, and you know, I just the marketing hurt this movie because in a film that promises all these little surprises, so many of them are ripped away with the imagery you see in the marketing. But they got to be able to promote the film.
mhm.
I don't think this movie is going to be a very big success. So
No.
I think it would have been a bigger success had they not shown anything and then allowed word of mouth to do the job for them
Mhm.
instead of people going in and going, yeah, if you've seen the trailer, you pretty much know the twist. But if they could have somehow kept it secret that she was a robot and like your first somebody 6 months from now is going to watch this on demand, not knowing anything.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
going to think it's the greatest thing ever.
Exactly.
And
They're gonna be mind blown.
I'm jealous of that person because I wanted to be that person because we're the people that keep up with what's going to make people happy.
Mhm.
And I thought this was going to be one of those movies. And now I'm very much in the camp of I don't think this movie's going to make people happy, except for the person living under a rock
Yes.
that ends up watching this randomly and goes like, "Oh my gosh, this is the most mind-blowing movie ever." But anyway,
There's a
also
twist right at the beginning.
the exposition from the tech who's there telling this guy who he clearly sees as suspect all these different intricate pieces of information of how they're going to is he just screwing around with I want to call him Huey. Is he just screwing around with Jack Quaid and like wants to make him sweat and uncomfortable? But if he's doing that, doesn't he realize that multiple murders have taken place and he needs to get the heck out of there? I just think this movie's so stupid. I hate the characters. They don't act like real people and the robots, the fact that they're able to, like how does the police officer not know that robots now exist to the point where he would understand this makeup of this individual considering later she runs into herself? It's got to be a very popular model. I don't know.
I'll give you I'll do you one better in that same scene.
Go ahead.
Um, I don't think ever once that cop asked why, Sophie Thatcher's just covered in blood.
Covered in blood kicking out the window. That is correct because I guess he
Mhm.
just was trying to, maybe he was just treating her different because of the way she looked and he wanted to treat it more delicately like she was an out of towner who's having a rough time. I don't know. I think the movie's stupid and the more I think about it the more angry I get kind of. So I hope it remains my middle of the road movie of the year. So, Companion. I know some of you are going to absolutely love it. I know some of you are going to absolutely think it's dog water. I'm very much in the middle. I see both sides. I'm disappointed by this movie. I was rooting for it. I feel stupider having even discussed it, to be honest, because there's just dumb points in it that made me angry again. But that's my thoughts. 3 out of 5, a base hit, but not nearly the home run I thought it could be. Tyler's at around a 3.6 out of 5. You can follow us on Letterboxd for all of our star reviews. We got our out of the theater reactions, and then obviously our spoiler reviews that you're witnessing right now. Make sure you subscribe to the Meltdown for all that information, and head over to our title sponsor. That's MyBookie at mybookie.ag. You can bet on anything, anywhere, anytime by using that promo code next round to get yourself a first-time deposit bonus. Tyler, final words.
What are the odds on you ever getting a robot girlfriend in the future?
Well, I am a happily married
All
man.
right, say you weren't. Say you weren't. Like, would you take the plunge and get a robot girlfriend?
Do you realize if I answer this question, I may no longer be a happily married man, Tyler? You're setting me
Well,
up
well,
for a
you're speaking in a hypothetical world where you are not a happily married man.
oh, okay. Um, so I've seen enough, unfortunately, enough robot gone bad movies
Okay.
to know that's not a place where I want to test especially in the first round and first realm of things, whether or not my robot's going to kill me. So I'm not interested, Tyler, is what I'm saying.
Okay, fair enough. I was looking at this movie like, like some people look at, like crime movies, and it's like, "Okay, see, this is where those people went wrong. Here's where it would go right." And I'm just thinking it's like, "Man, why do you have to jailbreak it?" It didn't seem like there were any problems if he didn't decide, let me mod my robot girlfriend to be aggressive.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would want that.
Yeah. In the future here, make sure you're charging your car that takes you everywhere and make sure you are charging your robot girlfriend with companion. Let us know what you think in the comment section below, but that's going to do it here for our spoiler review. We got a whole mess of horror movies coming up this year, so make sure you're subscribed so you never miss our spoiler reaction. We try to make it as authentic as possible. This is one of those. Companion 2025. Let us know what you think. This is The Meltdown.